Assassin's Creed 2 takes the great foundation that was built for the original Assassin's Creed game and improves upon it in nearly every single way. From the music, the story, the city design, the characters, everything. It's just a far, far superior experience. So let's not drag this intro out too long, and let's chat about Assassin's Creed 2. In this game, we take control of a new protagonist, Ezio Auditore, departing from Altair from the original game. This was a great decision, in my opinion, because Altair was a pretty boring character to control. The way that the story started in the original Assassin's Creed, you really didn't have a lot of context to who Altair even was. You really didn't really know who Altair was all the way at the end of the game, other than he was a relative of Desmond. We're not going to go too much into details about Assassin's Creed 1, but I am going to be making a lot of comparisons to Assassin's Creed 1 because that's the game that obviously started it all, and this is the sequel. So, if you're interested in hearing me chat about Assassin's Creed 1, I have a link in the top right corner of the screen you can go ahead and click on, and that's just basically my first attempt at this kind of a sort of podcast, talk about game play video type of thing. So go check that one out if you're interested to hear me talk about the original Assassin's Creed, and all that stuff is going to be there on that video for you. So, with that being said, Ezio Auditore is one of the greatest protagonists in gaming ever. A lot of people will tell you that if you read anything about Ezio. People just absolutely love him, especially fans of Assassin's Creed. I don't know one Assassin's Creed fan that does not love Ezio. So this is his beginning. This is the journey from a young man to becoming a master assassin, and the whole story is really, really great. Basically, the too long, didn't read version of the story, super condensed, is that at the very beginning of the game, Ezio's father, older brother, and younger brother get hung in the city square. They basically are plotted against by the Templars. You don't know that at the time, but that basically begins Ezio's journey, basically his revenge tour, to take revenge on the people that did his family wrong. And that's really the shortened, condensed version of the story. If you're interested in the story of Assassin's Creed, I will leave a link down below for a channel, ThePatientWolf. He has the best summary story recaps of Assassin's Creed out there, and I just simply would not even come close to being able to do the kind of deep dive work that he does with the story. So please go check out his videos, and specifically if you're interested in Assassin's Creed 2, he's got a great recap of Assassin's Creed 2, so go check it out over there. But I do just want to let you guys know that Assassin's Creed 2 has a very, very good story, and it ends up being so much better than the original. Again, we're going to be bringing up the original quite a bit, but this game actually has a story worth investing yourself into. Now, at the beginning of the... now, in the intro, we talked about the improvements, and there are many, many improvements to this game that just make it so much better to play in every facet. One of the main things that they added, unfortunately, this is a mechanic that you learn relatively late in the game, but when you're climbing, you actually have the ability to jump upwards in order to grab ledges that were typically out of reach. That mechanic alone makes the traversal feel so much better, being able to just get a little bit of extra height to be able to grab ledges above. Changes the whole feel of the game, because you're able to climb stuff you weren't able to climb before, and it just makes everything easier to navigate, and really it's well worth. It's just it was one of the best additions that they added, even though it seems really small. It was super, super, super nice. A couple other things that they added a poison blade to your hidden blade. Honestly, I never used this. I used it maybe one time throughout the game, but it is something that they added. I just don't know why you would really use it. The way that I see it is your hidden blade is your one-hit kill assassination tool. So what's the point of adding poison to a ability that one hit kills anyway? So I never used it, but it is there, and like I said, it's a new tool that you can play with if you're interested in it. I just really didn't. Another thing that they added is they added a pistol hidden blade attachment as well, which turns your hidden blade into a pistol. So that one's pretty cool as well. Again, I didn't utilize it a whole lot, but it is cool to have that there. I mean, like I said, they're just trying to add things to make it different and to make the experience different from the original. And I've got no complaints about it. I definitely could have used the pistol more often, but for me, it was always like, this is really loud. Like this pistol is fucking loud. It's going to alert everybody around that I shot the person I'm trying to assassinate. So I chose not to use it, but it is an option, and there's nothing wrong with having options. Speaking of options, another great thing that they added in this game is the ability to purchase weapons and armor throughout the game. In the first game, you were just stuck with Altair's sword, and that was it, and his hidden blade, and that was all. In this game, you can purchase a wide variety of different swords, short swords, and you can purchase armor pieces for Ezio, which changes the way the character looks. There's also a dye vendor where you can actually change the color of your cape and change the color of your robes and things like that. And those little customization options are a lot of fun, and really one of the best. I just love the ability to be able to buy weapons and change the way that Altair goes about his fighting. It's just really, really awesome. Personally, I'm a sword guy, but they do have options for maces and hammers and things like that in this game that you wouldn't have saw in the original. So really, really, really cool that they added that. I think it was an absolute great addition just to add a little bit of variety to this game. And I absolutely love that portion. Another thing that's really cool about this game is when you do get into skirmishes with the enemies, they actually added a little bit of they added battle music essentially. That's actually pretty epic and pretty good when it happens. So it just kind of adds to the intensity, and I think that was good. I don't really remember the music standing out to me in the original game, so I thought I would make a note of that because it is very apparent in this game, and it's not like crazy. I mean, you're not getting like Doom soundtrack levels of music, but it is still pretty cool just to have those moments amplified by pretty good sound design. Speaking of sound design, they also did away with like the really blatantly bad voice acting that would happen in the original game. Everything sounds very well voiced, and it just feels like a much higher production game. And that's good. That's obviously a really good thing. So very, very good there. There are things about this game that I didn't necessarily like. One thing which people will probably disagree on me with is the mid-game, like the middle of the game, I feel like is kind of a slog. It seems like it just really drags kind of towards the end. Like once you get over halfway, that like section from half, so like basically the third quarter of the game is like, it to me felt like a slog. Like there was numerous times I would get on to play thinking like I would get on to play thinking that I would be finishing the game that day, and it ended up taking me like 7 more hours to finish. So that just kind of felt like the game was kind of never ending. And it wasn't like bad necessarily. Like the story in this game is good. There's nothing wrong with the story, but for some reason it just felt longer than it probably needed to be, I guess, in my opinion. Obviously that is my opinion, and some people probably wish this game was longer, and I totally understand that. But for me, it was a little bit difficult to kind of grind through that third quarter of the game. The fourth quarter picks everything up, wraps the story up, and does a fantastic job, but that third quarter was difficult. Another thing I'll mention is there are still a few times where I yeeted myself off of buildings, which is probably a skill issue for sure, probably my fault. But plenty of times where I just was free running and just jumped off a building basically to my death. Didn't happen nearly as much in this game as it did in the original Assassin's Creed, and I think that is really due to the design of the cities that they made. They're just way more dense, and there's not a lot of moments where you're going to have those jump to your death experiences. So that's all credit to the city design, but it did still happen a few times. So I thought I would at least bring that up still, just because it did happen, and hopefully that won't happen in the next game as much. But we'll see. I don't really know. It's, like I said, it could totally just be a skill issue on my part. Still worth mentioning though. The other thing that I will mention, and this is really nitpicky, but there's really not a lot of cons in this game, in my opinion. But the enemy variety isn't that great, in my opinion. It's better than the original game. Obviously, the original game there was no enemy variety. It was essentially all the same enemies. This game, you have like kind of heavily armored enemies. You have agile guards. Obviously, your regular guards, agile guards, heavily armored guards that all have to be kind of approached differently. You can't parry, you can't counter the heavy guards. You have to dodge and then hit them, things like that. But there's about 3 enemy types in the game. And the only thing that really changes from city to city is they wear like a different color hat or something like that. So I feel like they could have made the guards from each city a little bit different. But again, we're really nitpicking at this point to try to find things to complain about. Ultimately, this is a game that I sat down, really loved it. It was probably 2 to 3 times as long as the original game, so it is a much longer experience. And if you take the time to go and get all the feathers and do all the side missions and all the different things that this game presents, it's probably going to be even longer. I just pretty much played the game for the story and kind of pushed through and didn't spend a lot of time on the extra content. But that extra content is there if you are interested in diving into it. And maybe sometime later on in the future, I'll fire Assassin's Creed back up again and get some of that other stuff completed, just because it is worthwhile to complete this game, I believe, and to do everything the game has to offer, because it is a well-made game. Even though it's 14 years old, it's still perfectly playable today, and it's just it's up there. It's got to be maybe in my top 10 games of all time, even though the mid-game slog was definitely real. It's just it's a very good, competent game that holds up 14 years later. You really can't complain about it. One gripe I have kind of with the story progression is there is a moment towards the end of the game where you do have to collect all the codex pages in the world in order to progress. I believe that I ended up getting about 22 out of the 30 codex pages just naturally throughout my playthrough, and I had to go back and collect the remaining 8 across the different cities. At this interjection in the story, they do give you the ability to locate all of the codex pages, so when you travel to a city, they're just revealed on your map by default. You don't have to look through every nook and cranny to get the codex pages. But that kind of felt forced upon me, which I wasn't really a fan of. But it did make sense in the story. One of the main plot points in the game is basically continuing your father's work, who was collecting and deciphering these codex pages with his brother Mario, who you meet in the game. So, it talks about it multiple times throughout the game that completing your father's work is a task of yours. So it tries to tell you to get the codex pages, but I was kind of ignoring it. One of the problems that I have when I play games, and this is why I can't play RPGs, like big RPGs, and I can't get into the new Zeldas and Elder Scrolls, and it can't even really get into Elden Ring, is because I'm the type of person that when I get into a game, I want to experience absolutely everything in the game, and I do that so aggressively that I burn out and I don't want to continue. So with Assassin's Creed 2, my whole goal was to just play the game and have fun with it, and not explore every single minute piece of the map. And of course, the one game that I like don't hardcore obsess over, they have a mechanic where you have to collect all the codex pages to continue. So it was kind of a bummer, and it was kind of a buzzkill. It's like, man, if I would have just collected it and played like I normally do, I wouldn't have had this problem. But ultimately, it's not that big of a deal, especially because when you get to that point in the story, it opens the map up and you're able to just locate them for free, essentially, which is nice. But it is something to note. So if you're playing through the game, I would highly recommend making sure you stop at every codex page that you find and collect it, because it's required later on in the game anyway, so you might as well spend the time to do it. I'm sure I'm kind of missing a ton of things about this game, but ultimately what I want you guys to leave understanding about this is that if you haven't played Assassin's Creed 2, I would highly recommend that you do so. You don't need to play the original game at all to understand the story of what's going on in Assassin's Creed 2. This is a completely different game with a new protagonist, with a new story. There's a few things in there for people that played the original. One of the most expensive weapons in the game that you can buy is Altair's sword. And once you do all the Assassin's tombs, which are kind of like a hidden, they're kind of like secret tombs. But once you do all those tombs, you end up unlocking Altair's robes. For some reason, they're black. I don't know if that indicates that after Altair, spoiler for Assassin's Creed 1, I don't know if that means that after Altair killed Al-Mualim in Assassin's Creed 1, he took over the black robes and became the master of the assassins. That's about the only thing I can think of. But anyways, Altair's robes are black in this game, so you end up getting his black robes that have the highest defense and health stat in the game. So there's little things like that. You get little droplets of Altair's equipment, but other than that, you don't really need to know anything about the original game to be able to enjoy this one. It might be a little confusing in the IRL Desmond sequences, in the real world Desmond sequences, because I think they refer to, well, not even then, it really doesn't matter that much. It gives you enough context, I believe, to be able to get you through the IRL moments without having played the first game. It summarizes it pretty well. There's not much to summarize. The story stunk in the first game anyways, but I think it summarizes it enough to where you'll be able to grasp it to continue. So don't feel like you have to play the slog-ass AC1 to get AC2. AC2 is a fantastic game by itself, and absolutely worth playing through. This is the time in gaming where developers were creating experiences that did not require downloadable content. They weren't trying to shill shit and hold shit back to make an extra buck on future content. None of that. They did their best to create a good game that would release in good condition and would be fun to play all the way through, and this game holds up very, very, very well. So I highly recommend, if this game looks interesting, if you've ever thought about playing it, definitely pick it up and play it. And let me know what you think in the comments below. I absolutely love it, and I cannot wait to jump into Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and continue my journey with Ezio. I actually have never played Brotherhood, I don't think. So starting from this point forward, when I continue through all the Assassin's Creeds that I'm playing through, it'll all be new, and I'm pretty pumped about that. I'm excited to get into some new content. I don't think I ever finished Assassin's Creed 2 as a kid. I got pretty close, but I believe kind of in that mid-game slog, the last, the third quarter of the game, I gave up because a lot of that stuff was kind of new to me. So either I forgot it or I just gave up at that point, which honestly I wouldn't be surprised if young me lost interest during that section, because I was kind of struggling to get through it myself. So anyways, pick it up. Hope you guys enjoy it. I absolutely loved it. And thank you guys so much for sticking around and listening to this episode of let's chat. I don't know what I'm going to name this yet. It's not really a review. It's essentially just me talking about my experience playing through the game. So I don't want to call it a review or anything like that, because it's not really that. I just kind of want this series to be kind of like a podcasty talking about my experience series, and that's the whole objective and goal here. So hopefully you guys are cool with that. Well, it doesn't really matter. This is the content that I'm going to make. So if you like it, great. If you don't, you don't. I understand. So there's that. One thing I do want to mention, and I mentioned it briefly, I will be moving on to Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, which is the next release in the Assassin's Creed series, which is middle-aged Ezio. And if you guys want to play it with me, absolutely, please fire it up, play through it again. Let me know on the next episode, obviously, when I release it, with the next chat episode about Brotherhood, what you guys thought about it, playing through it again, or playing through it for the first time. I would love to have that kind of feedback and that kind of going back and forth. It would be really cool to kind of have community involvement in this series as well. So absolutely let me know. And another thing you guys can do is join my Discord. I'll leave a link down below. I'm going to actually open up a text channel called the Revival Club, which will be specifically for conversations about the games that I am playing through. So obviously I'll open that channel. It'll all be about discussions about Assassin's Creed 3. And maybe in that Revival Club channel, once we all finish the game that we're currently playing on, we could talk about what we're going to be playing next. Right now, I'm obviously super into Assassin's Creed, so I'm just going to continue with Assassin's Creed games until I'm kind of tired of them. But yeah, my Discord link will be down below. Please check it out there. Make sure to check out the Patient Wolf's channel for the summary Assassin's Creed 2 story recap if you want to get your hands on that. And yeah, pick up Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and play right along with me, and we will chat it up about it in the Revival Club channel on my Discord. Other than that, thank you guys so much for all the support. I appreciate the hell out of you guys. Hope you guys are enjoying the content that I'm making here. Sorry for the inconsistencies with my uploads. Very, very busy, as we've talked about many times throughout the channel. I'm doing my best to upload as often as I can. I just can't do it as often as I would really like. But I really appreciate you guys sticking it out with me regardless. But other than that, I got nothing else to say. So thank you guys so much again, and we will see you guys on the next episode. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We'll catch you later.